Financial wellness. Reach out to them for advice at 855-DON-GINO. And now back to your hosts, Don Getling and Gino Fronti.
Yeah, so what we were talking about before the break is I'm just staggered at the amount of student debt that's been created over the last decade. And it ties into what Rob does because student debt has been created at a more alarming rate because the cost of college has grown exponentially over the last few years. And I'm not quite sure if I can put my finger on it. Is it due to less government subsidy, or is it due to less competition in the marketplace? Is it due to increased demand? I mean, supply and demand still is a force that's definitely going to be dominating price in any industry.
You bring up a lot of different points, and many of them do tie into the truth. One being, the level of competition actually has not changed appreciably. That's something that I expect will happen 10 years from now, that there will be losers in the college game because there's just not going to be enough business to go around.
Almost every time that happens, the middle class disappears.
Would not surprise me.
The bigger get bigger and the smaller still stay boutique.
Would not surprise me in the slightest. Another gold star. You mentioned the cost. The cost goes up on average 4 to 5%. Well, 4 to 5%, you start to see alarming jumps as these numbers get larger and larger. USC, by the way, in case you did not hear this, had an uproar on campus 2 weeks ago because they decided to raise tuition $2,000, which now brings their cost of attendance for 1 year to $70,000.
Okay, but let's talk about something unique to the USC program. Or maybe not unique to the USC program, but something special about their program. Arguably, they probably have the best alumni referral network in the nation.
Certainly in the top 3.
Yeah, so if you're going to make an investment into your future, there's a certain element of a tangible value in the business network that you're plugging yourself into by going to USC.
Yes, but how much value can you place on that one factor? And there is no exact answer. There is no exact science to that. It's a gut feeling. But more importantly, for the tangential piece of we have a 1.3 trillion with a T dollar deficit that is growing by leaps and bounds every single year. Now, you brought up something else. You said, but it's not able to be filed away under bankruptcy. It's the one debt you cannot file BK on.
Right.
But there are now circumstances when you can.
So let's talk a little bit about that. So, and I don't have the exact dates on me, and we probably have to have Lou Esbin, another one of our America's Professional Resource Group members and a bankruptcy specialist, come speak to that, because I know that for many, many years you could bankrupt it, and it wasn't a problem. And then laws changed, and you could no longer bankrupt it. And now, from what I heard from Lou last time and what I'm hearing from you now again, is that there's an asterisk by this.
That's correct. Asterisk is well stated.
Okay,
So
tell me about that.
The most recent example is the Corinthian colleges, which are now out of business. They have filed bankruptcy. They have gone away because they were investigated by the federal government for essentially fraud. They were promising job opportunities to their students, and they were providing false data back to the government about how successful their programs were. Many of the times, the employment data was including students who were hired by the Corinthian colleges themselves, which made up a significant percentage of that value. Then there were also immoral and illegal practices in terms of pushing student loan debt onto students, as well as our military.
Wow.
Well, interestingly enough, I read an article yesterday that says the newest organization now coming under investigation from the federal government is the University of Phoenix.
Wow.
Which is a much bigger entity.
Huge entity. And well respected overall, right? Consider in that space.
As a for-profit entity, it is certainly the best known animal in the group. I would tell you I'm not a fan of the great majority of that field, that for-profit education, while honestly everyone is
all
a
of them are
for-profit
for profit,
educator. Yeah. USC is a for-profit educator, even though they have nonprofit status. But at the end of the day, there are certain promises that are being made that cannot be kept, and there are exaggerations and there are claims of impropriety that cannot be ignored anymore. And the students who took out that loan debt at those schools are given the opportunity to forego that debt. So the answer is it depends.
Okay, well, that's a great answer. And, one of the things I want to bring up as you're talking about this, something that I'm a little more in tune to because my wife's a professional chef is the Cordon Bleu schools. Actually just decided they're closing all of their U.S. Schooling, and for a very similar reason is that they have been investigated for false promises of future employment. So, you know what? I think this is a good thing that our government's stepping in and saying, hey, are these claims true? I know in my industry, oh my God, you can't imagine how much legislation, regulation, and how much under the government's eye we are after what happened. So I think that because we have this huge student debt responsibility, because these are the future leaders of our nation, because of so many other reasons, these things should be investigated.
I agree with you. As much as the Obama administration has taken a lot of flack throughout the past 7.5 years, I think this is an area where they've thrived. This idea of changing the FAFSA deadlines to October, beginning this year, is going to revolutionize how we prepare for this financial aid process. We've talked about this briefly on a prior show, but this is a step that was probably 20 years in the making and is now going to allow a family to understand what it's going to cost to go to college at the same time that they apply for it, which on the surface, that sounds like that's what we're supposed to be doing. You wouldn't drive a car off a lot and go, oh, and how much do I have to pay for this? That's what colleges have asked us to do for 4 decades. And beginning this year, thanks to the Obama administration, that's all going to change.
Yeah, well, I can't tell you that Rob and I could probably go on for 3 hours and do multiple shows and continue to discuss different things about education and the pros and cons. And in fact, you just touched on the Obama administration. I think they've done a wonderful job of, and I know this is hugely unpopular, but they've done a wonderful job of collecting more revenue and taxes from people because of the way they've reformed mortgage. If you don't pay taxes, you can't buy a house. So I know it's hugely unpopular. I know self-employed individuals don't like it, but it's just the truth. And I know that they're paying more taxes in order to buy homes.
And paying more taxes makes everyone unhappy because that's how they feel about the government, is I'm going to pay you more to do less.
Yeah, but anyways, like I said, we could go on for days with this. Rob, I thank you so much for joining me today and being my co-host. Don, thank you so much for being gone for a couple of weeks and giving me the opportunity. No, really, gave me the opportunity to host the show in a little different light with a couple of different co-hosts and bring you maybe a different tune to the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show. Once again, if you have things to say about student debt, if you've experienced it yourself before, if you're experiencing it today, please send us an email at donandgino@gmail.com. I'd love to talk about it more on the show. Thanks a lot for joining us. And Rob, how could they get a hold of you?
Send me an email, rob@premiercollegeguide.com, or give me a call. Rings in my pocket, 818-359-3779. I offer free consultations anywhere in Southern California.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us on the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show. We'll see you next Saturday.